All right, mic check, Mortal Masters Podcast. Y'all's main, of course. I got a special guest across me, man. I got Mr. Jordan Johnson. How you doing?
Good, my friend. How you doing, brother?
I can't complain. I'm doing better than you, I think, you know.
I
We had a rough couple of months.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all did, but, you know, you wear the cape, you know. I just write stuff on the internet every now and then.
Every now and then. It's been a very, very fun last quarter of the year. How about I say it that way?
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Real quick, I also have my guy Kim Macon with me. You know, he'll be asking questions as well. I want to say I told Kim Macon this, and I've been thinking about all day, how can I introduce you? But to me, definitely the most well-spoken form of media we have out there is Kim Macon. So clap it up for him as well.
That's right.
A lot of pressure on you, boy. But I'll do my best, man. Appreciate the sentiment as always, man.
Telling you, man. Got the standard right here.
Hey, man.
Both of y'all.
Yeah, shout out to both of y'all. You know, I definitely learned a lot from y'all over the years. And I was thinking this earlier. You know, I said the first time I met Kim Macon, I was doing it out of my house. The first time I met you, no, it's nothing to you. I'm just saying you was a lot slimmer. You know, I was as well. You know what I'm saying? But I think about that, like, yo, we all getting older. This is insane. This is insane, bro. Like,
my knees
crazy.
crack when I stand now. I can just sway and my knees will pop.
See, that's insane. That is insane. I remember
your knees don't pop.
They do, but I wasn't gonna talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
But
you mobile.
You mobile. You gonna talk about your knees popping?
But you've been so mobile. Like you always everywhere. But you always was everywhere. You know. I remember the first time I think we recorded a podcast. You was coming from another talk, and then you had another speech and another walk, and you popped up at the Carlton House and gave about 45 minutes, and you went somewhere else and did something else. It was like that was the time. 2016, 2017. That was the time.
Was a while. Yeah.
Seemed like it, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy when you think about it that way.
Man.
So yeah, man, welcome back to the podcast. You know, last time I had you on, the world was a lot different. Well, Augusta was a lot different back then, right?
Yeah.
A lot less trees on the ground for one, and then also you were up to a re-election.
Yeah.
So I want to just start there, like describe that, you know, getting reelected and the things you had to do to just gain that confidence or the community confidence back in you, rather not back in you, but in you to vote for you, and then the things you have to, you know, hit and stride.
Yeah, so you're right. The last time we were here, I was running for re-election. Fast forward, I was re-elected. I think it was a 4 or 5 person race. You have 4 people in the race, but then one person withdrew, but his name was still on the ballot. And we won without a runoff, which was nothing but God in itself. You know, I hate runoff elections because runoffs are just you know, challenging in itself.
Right.
To get the voters to come out once is a challenge, but then to get them to come back again in the dead middle of the summer is just
Stressed out.
Yeah, it's very stressful. But we won without a runoff, and I just really accredit that to God. And I thank the people for, you know, trusting me with another 4 years. The first 4 years has been, you know, I'll say fun. They've been fun. They've been fruitful. When I ran for office in 2020, I said that I wanted to make sure that the district was turned back over to the people. I said that I wanted to make sure that we had affordable housing, that we had a grocery store, that we addressed homelessness, that we, you know, operated in a sense of transparency and honesty and integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think that we did that. I look back and I look on some of the things that we were able to accomplish with affordable housing, with tiny homes, with blight ordinance being passed. I mean, we even passed an indoor smoking ordinance to allow for cigar lounges.
Yeah.
Like, those were things that I'm proud of. You know, the grocery store is in the works right now. You know, the city has officially purchased the location, and we work with the TD Jakes Foundation and other vendors to put a grocery store on Laney Walker Boulevard. Like, these are the things that keeps me going. You know, so what goes into it is you just have to just be real with the folks, real with the people. You know, we're not going to be able to dot every I and cross every T and accomplish everything that we said we were going to do. But I'm glad to know that the things that we were able to accomplish, and I say we because it's not just me, it's me, it's commissioners who voted for these initiatives, it's constituents who believed in it and supported. What we were able to accomplish, I think, has really been fruitful, and you can see those changes. I'm proud of it.
That's what's up. You got any? You know, you can ask anytime you want to ask the question.
Okay, for sure. And I'm, you know, we kind of.
It's like it's both ours.
Yeah. Jordan and Pippen. Shout out to you for winning without a runoff. You know, I don't think people really understand that when it goes to a runoff, it's basically a coin flip.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as you alluded to, you know, when you have to come out a second time, you experience voter fatigue, different things like that. It becomes less of a certainty. So in a 4 to 5 person race for you to win outright, I think speaks well of you.
Thank you.
Speaks well of what you've been able to accomplish. I really just want to ask you about, Maine talked about it earlier, the cape that you had to put on in the aftermath of the hurricane. And I can remember that was a Thursday night going into a Friday morning. My lights went out, and I had really taken it for granted. I said, oh, man, lights will be back on in a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got in my car and, rode a few blocks, rode a few miles, and I saw the devastation.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your experience of when you realized, oh, man, this is a really big deal.
So it didn't really dawn on me that it was a big deal until I got up in the middle of the night. Well, no, let's back up because it wasn't even a big deal then. So let's fast forward a little bit.
Sure.
A group of meteorologists met with some of your city officials. I was not in that meeting, but they met with some of the city officials and kind of explained what was to come. We all saw what the forecast was projecting, and there was really just no way of us knowing that the storm was going to come through Augusta the way that it did. And so when I went to sleep that night, it was just like any other night. It was peaceful. I was, just chilling, went to bed, and I woke up to the thunder and the lightning. I heard the rain and wind and didn't think much of it, but I couldn't sleep. So around maybe 3 a.m., I got up because the sky was like a greenish, tealish color. It was the scariest thing I had ever seen, but I got up and I went on my balcony, and I had to just kind of close the door because the wind was just so strong. So I said, okay, well, it's just another storm. It didn't dawn on me that the storm had hit, as hard as it did until the morning when the sun came up and I went outside and I saw all of the trees down along Broad Street. It was just so eerie to see no traffic on Broad, to see very few cars on Broad. Each intersection was blocked with trees. The power lines, some of the lights were down, but it didn't dawn on me until I actually saw that devastation, and it kind of felt like a survival movie scene because you saw the news media driving up and down the road taking videos and pictures. You saw people who were living downtown coming outside just to kind of survey the damage. But that morning, I think probably had to have been like 6 or 7 a.m. I got up and I rode the district. I don't remember how I got off abroad, but the first place I went was down to East Augusta. Then I made my way up. I had to have counted at least 84 to 85 roads that had been closed just because of trees. And I wrote each road down and sent them into the city to get them open back up. I went over into the area behind Payne College, and I saw the trees, that had sliced homes in half, that destroyed cars. I mean, I'm looking at places that I grew up looking at, houses in areas of the city that look completely different now. I tried to go out Walton Way, and that just wasn't happening. It just was not happening trying to go out Walton Way that morning. So it didn't really hit me until I started riding around. And I realized in that moment, this is much bigger than what we expected. And immediately we held a press conference. We spoke to our constituents and pretty much told them, listen, don't panic, help is on the way. But that was the first night of at least a month and a half worth of sleepless nights and restless days. It was a very tough process.
The news media was in the position of assessing the damage and assessing the problems. You, on the other hand, were in a position where you had to come up with solutions, and not you as an individual, you as a part of a collective. Just talk about that process. And we ran into each other a few times during that, and the sleeplessness, and I might as well ask you now, when's the last time you got a good night's sleep?
Well, let's say it this way. I have a beard now because during the hurricane, I didn't have access to a barber because I didn't have access to gas, which means I didn't have access to my car. I just let my beard grow out. I just let my facial hair grow in. I haven't counted the nights, right? I sleep enough. But as soon as everything happened, I mean, you don't really know where to start. You just don't. A few weeks before, well, actually, earlier that week, our government went through a big change. 3 of our most impactful city employees were forced to resign because of politics. And that Friday, I believe Friday, Saturday is when the storm hit. So we were just kind of really scrambling at that point. We had a new administrator. We had interim directors in the most important seats in this government. I mean, the most important seats. One of my colleagues said that the decision to let those city employees go destabilized our government. And I'll be damned, that weekend, it showed just how destabilized our government was. But even in the midst of all of that, I saw how our departments came together, how, the fire chief and the mayor and the administrator and others really came together every single morning, early as, 7, 8 a.m., preparing to make things happen. They were in the command room. We were out in the community. We were communicating back and forth about what the needs were in the community when we heard them. Were there hiccups on the way? Oh, absolutely. Were there blowouts and arguments and shouting matches? Yes, there were. But it was because we were trying to make sure that folks got the help that they needed. So folks say, we had to go put on the cape. To a degree, yeah, we did. But it took help from everybody. Whatever happened earlier in the week, when we held that press conference, it had to take a back seat because although, some mess happened, and I still feel very strongly about what happened, in that moment when the hurricane hit Augusta, it just didn't matter at that point. So we were focused on getting the money to the people. We were focused on getting the money to contractors to clean the roads up, dealing with FEMA, dealing with the Small Business Administration, dealing with the White House. We were in constant go mode. And no, sleep didn't happen for the first month. And I think we're finally now slowly getting to some sense of normalcy.
I want to ask, I know, because I know you said a lot of things just now, but within them first, I'm gonna say 5 days, right? Like what's the game plan, if any? Because first off, it's Augusta, Georgia. You're not. I've been down here since 06, 05, something like that. Never had nothing major happen besides like the ice storm in I think 2013 or something like that, or 2014, one of them years. And that was the closest, and that really don't measure up to what we saw. That was a few days.
Couple trees,
that was nothing. Kind of still. This was something. People were worried at this point. People were worried about their employment. They were worried about whether they're gonna lose their job or not. Where I was at the time, I remember I worked overnight. It was me by myself in a huge. I text Ken. He texted me the next day by myself the whole night. Nobody said, "Hey, well, it's not safe to do this. You probably shouldn't be doing by yourself." It's just, hey, just hold it down for us. See what you can put up. see what you can put up on the truck.
Good luck, right?
Wow. Insane, right? Which is why I'm not. But it's not there. But the thing is, I think about a lot of people I knew, the things I saw on social media, right? Which I want to get into a little bit with that later on. But what was you guys' initial plan? Because, I would think when I think of Augusta, we hope that a hurricane don't hit us hard. We hope that this don't happen. But I've always been told hope is not a plan. But a lot of times that's how we spoke up until 2024 September.
September 30th.
Everything was, I hope, right? So what was the next 5 days like? I know you scrambled, but like who? I know we say putting cape on, but like who spearheaded this? Like who was the brains? Who was like what ideas? Yeah, did y'all want to try it first? I said, okay, no, we ain't gonna try that. That might not be the best idea. What ideas that the public didn't like? I wasn't even here the whole time, so I didn't get to see everything. But what ideas didn't the public like that y'all did try?
Well, I think that a lot went into the initial recovery. Now we have an emergency management director. He's also our fire chief, so I'm going to give kudos to Fire Chief Antonio Burden right now.
Okay, clap it up for him.
Yeah, Chief Burden, he is one of the most professional gentlemen I've had the pleasure of working with. And he didn't sleep. He didn't rest. He took all of our phone calls, even the ones that weren't as, nice as they could have been. But he did everything he could to deliver. Charles Jackson, our deputy city administrator, same thing, on the ground. I'll give it to Mayor Johnson. I give it to our city administrator, because everyone had a role in making sure that the city recovered. It wasn't just one person. It wasn't just one plan. It was what were the needs of the community at the time, and let's move forward. Did it have flaws? Absolutely. And I was one of the biggest critics. And after a while, I just kind of distanced myself from the group chats. I distanced myself from the 8 a.m. briefings. I went to one press conference, and you didn't see me at a press conference after that. Because we were getting calls from folks who needed assistance at their homes, at their front doors, people who didn't have transportation to make it to the distribution centers. We set up distribution centers and people couldn't get to them. Good Morning America came and everybody who you hadn't seen prior just showed up out of nowhere. Folks couldn't get to that. So me and the district attorney, Jared Williams, we were riding around Augusta for, 4 or 5 hours, just handing out cases of water and everything else that we can get our hands on to people out in South Augusta. We went to Castle Pines, and my God, man, Castle Pines was devastated. Castle Pines looked like a war zone, and that's my district. But that neighborhood had nothing. We went and passed out sandwiches and cases of water and toiletries to every person that we could find in that neighborhood. We went over to Oak Point, Delta Manor. We went over to East Augusta Commons and passed out as much food and supplies as we can. We had Red Cross disaster kit meals that went out to Harrisburg. So there were so many on the ground efforts that happened to where all the other mess, the stuff that I could go into right now just didn't even matter. But I think one of the biggest frustrations that I had was just how you saw more resources sort of go to other areas versus the areas that really needed them. Now, I'll just say it. I spent money out of my pocket and out of my nonprofit's pocket just to buy cases of water. My campaign office was open the next day after the hurricane. The very next day, we were open. We had food, we had water, we had produce, cakes, boxed goods. More water than we could get rid of, generators, gas cans, tarps. We had everything that we needed to help get the community resources. But we only had to do that because, I'm going to be real, it was hard to get it from some of the distribution centers. It was hard to get it to some of the churches. It was hard to get people to understand that the folks out in Trinity Manor didn't have cars. So you had mothers and children trapped in houses with no power. And mind you, the water had to get shut off because of the damage that was done to our canal system.
That's when I left.
Listen, man, that is when I realized that the mess had hit the fan.
Yeah, I think the water. It was for me. The water. It was definitely the water. I was like, okay, this is for real, for real.
And we'll speak about another instance where frustration happened. We get one notice saying we're not shutting the water off, and in theory, we didn't shut the water off, but because of the damage that the debris did to the system that we use to get our water to our constituents, we had to.
I know you mentioned something about it, but I do remember, I'm thinking about it now, and I not to cut you off, but I think it was you. I think you might have made a post saying that, no, it's not getting cut off. Yeah. So,
and then when it got cut off, I'm like, you got to be, you are really, I don't know how much cussing I can do on this podcast.
Hey, you Jordan Johnson, you can do what you want to do. But
I was pissed, man, really.
I wanted to ask you, what went through your mind when, you had to make that post, and then
I can't tell you that on this.
I wanted to text you, hey, Jordan, mine's is off. I don't know if it's a bill issue, but I think I paid it. It's off. I seen your post. I'm like, we good.
Yeah. What happened was this. So the city did not. So when the initial post came out,
which one? Yours?
The first one. Okay. No, I don't know who made the first.
Because you were clearing something up. You were clearing up a quote unquote rumor.
I said that the claims that the city is shutting off water was unsubstantiated. That those claims weren't official. Until I got a phone call from someone. I feel like you said it wasn't true though, but it was somewhere around those lines.
Those are different words, but I got you.
So
I got you.
And the reason I didn't say it wasn't true because I didn't know for sure. What I knew was that they had not been confirmed. But I got a phone call saying that the system was damaged so badly that we started losing water pressure. And to conserve water, the city had to make the decision to shut things off and to repair the system. And when I saw that post that the water was actually getting ready to be closed off, I'm like, this is where the communication could be better.
Yeah.
Because you have people right now who don't have anything. The food is spoiled. They're in dark houses, the shelters are full. The last thing that we need right now is for people to be stressed out and worried about if they're going to have water to drink. And some things just happen. Some things happen that we can't control. But I didn't really get upset as badly because, I know things happen.
Yeah.
But to go in there and say, oh, the city is flipping a switch and everybody's water is going off, at the time, that was not true. But the more that the damage had been assessed, the more that we were able to go in and see exactly what was happening, the water could have stayed on, but then we would have lost water.
One
So
thing
eventually what happened,
I always say is because I think we all men, so we all head of households and stuff like that. We all are we spearhead a lot of things, and I always the saying of heavy is the head with the crown is like super important to me because I really feel like the post, it wasn't like you did anything wrong per se, but it's gonna be different perceptions of it because some people that don't follow or only follow for news or around this time where nobody know who the commissioner is of District 1, right? They don't vote, they don't know anything, but because this going on, oh, that's the guy. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now you're the guy. You are the clear up guy. Like, okay, you're the most personable on social media, probably the most approachable, so people are watching you. So when you post this, it's like, okay, no, we good. Jordan said we good. Y'all, we good. Y'all, we good, right? And it's like, oh, hold up.
Wait a minute. We're
not that good, But also, I
really
feel like
pissed me off.
but that's becoming the job a lot of times. Like that might be one of them things where like, yeah, it's not out of your control. But y'all all are also trying to like keep a city calm in the middle of madness, of this stress.
Yeah.
People are traveling and it's accidents happen because we traveling somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's no traffic lights, mind you. For weeks, I came back and there still was no traffic light. I don't know what was going on, but that's neither here nor there. And it's like it's a lot of things going on. Like we could talk about the little things, like not little things, but big things like the water. But it was a lot of little things that can, like you think of 5 little things that can add up to big things. People be online talking to each other, saying like, "Hey, let's just do this, guys. Like if it's a 4-way stop sign, let's all just like count to 5 and go. Like we trying to make
didn't really pass their driver's test.
Right, for real."
Who skimmed it and didn't pay attention.
I just say people should stay in their state sometimes, but it's not a big deal. Sorry, Ken.
You good. Oh, man, listen, South Carolina versus Georgia drivers, and everybody loses.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Listen, man. Don't even get me started on Carolina drivers.
Man, listen, I see a plate, I just pull over. At this point, I'm like, y'all got it. But so heavy as the head, it was the crown. I feel like with y'all, you definitely having to put that cape on, it has come with the territory. I remember doing a podcast, and not to call them out, but I think Slim might have brought you up by something. I don't know what it was, but it was like, that's one thing. There's a lot of things that happened that I know are positive because it's a lot of efforts that needed to take place to even get to where we at now, which most might not feel like we got somewhere. But if you know the level of communication it takes, level of putting stuff to the side it takes, all the positives you have to fight through, it's a lot that go on just to get a very little push forward. So to get what we got, I think is a good job.
Well, I appreciate you. I know folks were. I know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Like I get it, and I know that during that hurricane, that probably exacerbated things. But what I was saying,
not to laugh.
No, you can laugh. What I would say though is, if only people understood what we had to go through just to get things, back on track. And it's not a boohoo moment. Like the fact is, you had to make some tough decisions. And then on top of that, my mom, my grandmom, my cousins, my sister, my nephews, everybody that I loved, like they were all at my mom's house for at least 2 weeks or so. Yeah. So while I'm running around trying to stay safe and trying to help folks, I'm still trying to figure out if my mama and my family is okay too. But we're still human.
Understood.
How tough was that for you, man?
Very
because and Maine alluded to it as you being essentially the man of the house.
Yeah.
And you're running around and understandably, you have a job to do. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you still have those,
I didn't see my mom and I didn't see my family for at least, I don't know, it was a few days. It was a few days. And that bothers me. Even to like right now, it bothers me. Because, you always want to prioritize your family, which I do. I love my family. But from where I live to where my mom lives, that is maybe 30 minutes away. Street lights were out. Road lights were out. Gas stations were closed. And so it reminded me sort of like COVID. We communicated via Zoom, FaceTime, things like that. I would call. I would text. Y'all need anything? Are y'all good? How's everything? Fortunately, they didn't lose power. Fortunately, they didn't lose their water. So I'm fine with that, right? So I thank God for that grace. But I don't think that people really understand that although we are elected officials and although we are public, we still have families. We still have people that we love, that we go home to. And during that cycle, during that hurricane cycle, I mean, I took care of my family, but every ounce of energy that I had went into making sure that this community was taken care of. And that's not just me. I wasn't the only one who did that. Everybody who you saw working did that. That's why when they were on Facebook praising me, my response was what? It's all God. It's all God. Because all I'm doing is posting. Everybody put every ounce of energy that they had into making sure that the city bounced back. At least I like to think that they did.
I
So,
agree.
it was tough.
But I'm just, and this, this is me, not Ken speaking. I just want to know. I should know from the stuttering. But, I feel like I get what you're saying when you say everybody. And I do think everybody does play a hand because it's definitely that. I see it. But I also feel like, and Ken tell me this a lot of times too, don't sell yourself too short because at the same time, you are a lot more social on social media. Mm-hmm. We talk about everybody getting older, but you are a lot younger than a lot of your peers. You know what I'm saying? So you reach a certain demographic that they don't reach. Mm-hmm. And I mean that for young, old, like it's a median there. Yeah. So I said to say a lot of times people don't know a lot of commissioners. They know Jordan Johnson. They don't know their commissioner. They know Jordan Johnson. So even though I know it's a specific district that, I guess you were held accountable for, quote unquote, people look at you as a man of Augusta at the end of the day. So
next mayor, sorry.
I'm trying to tell you, hey, look,
here we go.
What I'm saying?
Let's wrap this interview.
Don't get him started with that mayor.
Wrap this interview up.
Every time you say mayor, he get a glitch in him, but I left alone right now.
Y'all get ready to start some drama.
I'm not saying it. This is what I've seen on social media.
Oh boy! But
here we go with the mess.
But I was saying, like, I go back to the post not to ask about it, but also it wasn't a lot of them mistakes from other people because they wasn't putting but people weren't putting their neck on the line like that. That's a neck on the line kind of post to say, hey, look, this ain't happening, and then it happened. But that goes to show you like just how committed you were and are to the city of Augusta, just to make sure that we felt safe.
Yeah.
And I think that, I know you probably got a lot of flack for the post, but I think it was looking back now, it's to me commendable.
I appreciate
because the reason why you did it.
I appreciate you, man. I don't really remember a lot of flack that I got from it. I think the big thing was just like, anytime something like that happened and we had to go back and retract or explain something, I would make it a mission of mine to just explain it as best as I could.
Right.
Like, no, the city didn't shut it off. We losing water pressure. But because we got to save water, you're going to experience an interruption for some time. And then even when the water came back on, and the city was like, boil your water. And people kept saying, I'm not drinking that water. I turned on my water faucet and drank some water.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Like, can you dispel or talk about some of like the rumors that you heard or like, these things that people just make up on social media?
Just make up stuff. Just make up stuff.
That you had to keep like saying, look, it's not true. It's not true. That's false. That's false.
Well, the first was that the water was getting shut off. And then I got a call from a person on the inside of the water department saying, hey, water going off. I'm like, oh, hell, here we go. I think another one was that the churches weren't doing anything. And that offended me because, and I should not have taken it personal, but it offended me because we being myself, Commissioner Francine Scott, Commissioner Stacey Pulliam, Bobby Williams, Tony Lewis, we're all working with the preachers, as many churches as we could. And Francine Scott took that on as a personal task to organize the churches, to make them distribution centers. Folks, these churches ain't doing nothing. They're not opening the doors. Those churches was open. They had people in those churches. They were working hard. I think that was another one. I think another one was that, the city gets priority with gas at the gas stations. So if you with the city, you can just cut the line. That wasn't the case. I sat in the line, let me tell you, man. I sat at the Parkers off of 520. Well, no, it's not 520. Aiken, Augusta.
Yeah, you're in the same vicinity.
Same thing, yeah.
And I almost ran out of gas. Had to go back to Augusta. It took me 2 or 3 days just to be able to get gas. I was Ubering around to different places. So no, we didn't have, I was Ubering around. And actually, I was buying gas from somebody who was going back and forth up 20 to go get gas and bring it back. A couple gallons for $100 here and there. Yeah, that was me.
I'm stunned. I'm sorry, man. I'm looking at, if y'all can see my face, I'm flabbergasted.
That was me.
Goodness gracious.
I was buying gas off of Facebook.
I remember you posted something like you was like, "Hey, I'm about to get gas, so if I call you or something, if I run out of gas,
I run out, come get me.
help me out."
Come get me. Like if I run out, somebody better come get me. Like I'm on Facebook. Who got gas? You know,
What was your thoughts on that? I don't know what you can talk about, but like the price gouging with the gas. What was that about?
I mean, look, I
It just pissed you off all over again, right?
you know, there's a special day for people who overcharged folks
Yeah.
during their most challenging times. Restaurants, gas stations, people who provided food. If you're jacking your prices up because the
Hotels.
demand went up, you know, I have very little respect for you. Now the people who are going out of town to get the gas and coming back and charging $80 for a couple gallons or whatever, I'm like, hey, y'all are everyday people. Get it how you get it. I understand. Like you're struggling just like everybody else. And I guess that argument can be used for the businesses.
Right.
But you are a trusted source as a business. You're a trusted source of the community, a member of this community. Don't take advantage of the people. But if you had to drive up 20 to use your gas and go get gas and come back and you're doing it, I mean, I get it. But I was very disappointed in the price gouging that I saw. And, Shonda Stovall, school board vice president, she was reporting people. I was reporting people. Maybe she didn't want me saying that, but we were all
shout out to
reporting
Shonda Stovall. He said, "No, I'm playing."
well, no, she put it on Facebook. So I guess it's public information. We were really reporting people to the DOJ and to the Attorney General for all this price gouging. I mean, it was ridiculous.
I'll say this about the water. I thought that was a tough. No, I
Forget the price gouging.
I just want to.
Let's go back to the water.
No. I just want to. No, I
You
want to.
said the water wasn't getting cut off.
According to my screenshot,
I want to put a pin in that because two things there. The first thing, excuse me, Alan tickled me now. I thought that was a tough break. The only concern with that is, I know some people were saying, well, man, I could have filled up my bathtub with water, so on and so forth. But I really think that particular episode underscores the importance of having a familiarity with your elected official beyond emergencies. And if you have those type of relationships, I think you're more inclined to give your elected officials the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. And you did say you didn't experience any flack, which, goes without saying because you had built up so much goodwill even before the hurricane, but particularly in the days and the weeks afterward. And that's why I was saying that the M word that we won't repeat. I do want to say this because I do want to say this because all of this happened at the end of September and we're in the middle of December. I'm fairly sure there's still folks who are still feeling the effects of the hurricane from a sense of just essential needs and goods and different things like that. And I just want to ask on the podcast, I know you're still in the gap helping those folks out. Is there any way that we can help out and support those folks?
Well, a lot of what folks are dealing with right now is just having access to food. Like, people are still waiting to get the benefits from FEMA, still waiting to get their emergency EBT. I've had a lot of people reach out to me about holes in their roof. Like, there's a lot of people who are still sleeping with tarps on their roof. Some folks are still displaced. There's a person right now that I know. I spoke to her, what's today? I spoke to her last week sometime, and she's sleeping in her car. And she's been sleeping in her car since the hurricane. She lost everything.
Wow.
I had cousins in Thompson lost everything. So what we can do to help is advocate for these services to be expedited. And not only be expedited, but to be created to a degree. Because even now, I've received a message before I sat down in a chair from someone asking about utility assistance and rental assistance. We tapped into our own pockets. We, being Georgia Shift, tapped into our own pockets and created hurricane relief funds to be able to help people pay rent, to be able to pay utilities and things of that nature. And we were able to get some of that money out, and we're still doing it. But we need more dollars allocated for emergency rental assistance, for emergency utility assistance. We need more folks providing food to people. Farmers markets need to be amplified right now. And I think a lot of what the hurricane showed was that, although we're getting to a better place in our community, we have so much further to go as far as getting people help that they need. So the calls have not stopped. The requests have not stopped. People are still waiting to get trees removed off of their houses, waiting to get trees removed from their fences. once again, I've been paying a contractor to go out and cut trees off of private citizens' properties because the city can't go out there and do it. So we've been paying $700 here, $600 here, that. Those are the services that people need, and I just don't know if there's one answer to that question. As much as just we need to be advocating for more services, we need to get those debris pickup trucks into the inner city, get them into South Augusta. We know where they are right now, and I don't want to cause any division, but the fact is, there's still far too many trees on curbs in the inner city. And someone has to answer for that. So I think that's what people need right now. They need to get their lives back to some kind of sense of normalcy, but it's not going to happen just by waiting for the contractors or whoever is supposed to do it. We've got to apply pressure.
I asked that question for a very specific reason. I know with what I do with making a difference, Maine with more than the masters, it's growing exponentially. I know when Maine puts things out, people really hear it. And so this is a call from, like I said, I can't speak for Maine, but I'll speak for myself. The community has stepped up so much over these past few months. I know you have as well. I just want to let y'all know on the pod tonight, I'm going to put $200 in your hand.
Thank you, brother.
Before the end of the night.
Thank you.
I'm not asking people to match $200. Maybe you can, you can give 20, 50. I know there's some big ballers and shot callers on the pod. But I really want to put something together, man, to help folks. It's the holidays, man.
Yeah.
And that's, if this had happened in March, it would have still been an issue, you know what I mean? But the fact that it happened in September, October, going into the holidays, man, like the reality of this thing is, like, there are some folks who can't even think about, Christmas or think about their families or their kids because of what's happened, man. So I just want to let you know that, that's coming from making a difference, man.
Thank you, my brother.
To support what you're doing, man, for sure. And I hope that folks listening in I'm not saying you got to give $200, man, but just anything that you can give to this brother or give to these efforts, I think would be greatly appreciated, for sure.
And all of those dollars go towards someone's utility needs, someone's rental needs, someone's, we try to connect the dots, whatever dollars we get. And so I appreciate you for that. And again, that's what people need right now. Christmas is not even on their mind. But if we can provide some toys for some folks, let's do it. I think there's enough time to pull it off. Thank you, my brother.
I want to clap it up for you real quick.
Right.
But you can't hear the clap, but it's very, very loud. Very, very loud.
Out here making a difference, man.
Always.
You have like a little
this little thing,
We appreciate you, Ken.
For sure, man. I do want to say this. Like I said, we're not saying the M word, but I would be remiss if I didn't speak to just the overwhelming amount of support and appreciation that you've received via social media. And I don't want to be dramatic in asking this, but do you believe what you've experienced as an elected official, as a public servant over the past few months, based on the response that you've gotten from people and based on the collective response, of the commission and other folks, do you believe that this is a defining moment in your political career, which, you've been at this for a while?
I remember when Katrina hit New Orleans and that line Kanye West used about George Bush. Okay? I remember that. And I remember asking my mama, what did he mean? And she told me, she showed me. And I just never really wanted to, I don't ever want people to think that we don't care. Even if we weren't able to do it all. I know for a fact there were people out there that we weren't able to help. But I at least hope that they know that we cared enough to try. Did it define? I think that if anything else, it matured my service a little bit. Like, it really opened my eyes a little bit more to how vulnerable this community is when it comes down to disasters happening. We are not a wealthy community, regardless of what people say. There's a portion of this community that's wealthy and that is well off. Augusta is a community of small businesses, but the majority of our city is not. And whether I was riding around in East Augusta or Harrisburg or out in Sand Ridge, people had needs, man. And I think, if anything, it made me more sensitive to the fact that we need to do more to help people who have these deep-rooted needs. So I think in a way it may have defined my philosophies around, you know, just how do we help people. But I don't know. I just really don't know how to answer that question fully. But when you're out in East Augusta Commons, like I was the morning after the storm, and you're hearing the people talk to you, because I went around and shout out to Joe Ray Jenkins. Shout out to Joe Ray Jenkins. Okay, shout out to her. She called me. I went over to East Augusta Commons, and she was outside, literally going door to door in East Augusta Commons, saying, y'all commissioner here. Your commissioner outside. Come and talk to your commissioner. And y'all better be nice to him, because that's like my son. I'm like your son, but you just ran against me not,
I was
a
going
couple months ago.
I was going to ask the question. I'm like, hey, she didn't run against you?
Yeah,
know?
she ran against me.
Is she okay? She good now?
I love Joe Ray.
Okay. I know she has some thing happen on social media. I just don't know.
I don't speak for her, but I love her.
Okay.
People don't really know this, but she grew up with my aunt. And so when they were younger and in middle school and high school, I was running around in diapers, running behind them. So I've known her literally all my life. But I said that to say this, and I gave her flowers because she was in need in the moment. But she was going door to door asking people, what do they need? And your commissioner is here to talk to you. And the responses that I got, we need food, we need diapers, we need milk. I need places to store my insulin. I need to get these trees off my house. Like, those were the stories that I took with me that whole process.
Absolutely. I want to ask you as well, has it shaped or changed your perspective in terms of just the city budget, emergency preparedness being a priority? Mm-hmm. Can you speak to, some of those issues?
Well, we've always been good financial stewards as far as having a good savings. We very rarely, deplete our contingency fund. So, you have your checking and your savings. Our checking account is what manages the government. But that savings account is our rainy day fund. And we've been very, very responsible in building that rainy day fund. And I've had the pleasure of being our finance chair for the last 2 years. And I'm really just thankful that we're not out here spending money like it grows on trees. So not from a budget perspective. But what I do think we need to do more of is create programs to help those who are living in poverty. We talk about homelessness a lot, but we very rarely talk about poverty. Just this whole idea of people not having enough. And poverty doesn't look like raggedy clothes and, beat up cars and people shaking cans asking for soup. Like, this isn't the Great Depression, right? But poverty now looks like your annual income being $40,000 a year, $38,000, $45,000 a year. One paycheck away from being in somebody's soup line. A disaster like this happening, you may have had your rent caught up, but as soon as rent was due on October 1st, you had to choose between paying rent or going and buying ice or going and buying food or whatever, diapers or whatever. You went into survival mode. Survival mode now costs you to potentially lose your housing. That's what poverty looks like. And I think we could do so much more from a city perspective versus passing off that responsibility to outside agencies. I understand there are agencies that are set up for that purpose, but we have to put our money where our mouth is first. When they call me, they're asking what does the city have to offer? And I sometimes have to tell them, we don't have anything, but go try this person. Well, this organization is out of funds too. What do we say? Well, okay, it's not our problem. No, it is our problem. It is our problem. The same people that we're paying the police to police, the same people that we are, paying the water department to maintain, and all this stuff is still the same people that we need to make sure, if a disaster happened or something bad happens in their community, that they're not next in line to be residents at the Salvation Army. I think that is what my heart is right now. And all of this is that people had needs. And yes, we were able to help out from a contract perspective and a service perspective to a degree. But when those donations stop coming in, where does that leave our city? People still gonna have needs.
Absolutely. And I want to add this too. When we talk about poverty, it's like you're saying, it's not people who are, maybe on the side of the road or people who are homeless. Like, we're talking about people who make $15 to $20 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's poverty. And I don't think people really, people think, oh man, $20 an hour, you're making $800 a week. It's $3,200 a month. You're making under $40,000 a year.
That's right.
Yo, Ken, your math is insane, bro. I love it.
Yeah.
That was quick as hell.
I was trying to keep up
I
with
was
him.
trying to. Did you go to Cross Creek too?
What school did you go to, Ken?
I went to Aiken High, man.
Oh, okay.
Shout out
Across
to
the
Aiken
river.
High, man.
I don't have no
Top of
traffic
that.
talk, but I don't know much about Aiken High.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
This guy.
But I was gonna say to your point, because I talked to a lot of people that and then that being in management as well. You get management, you make $20 an hour. If you're a young, little manager, or the big time, you're making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, depending where you're at. A lot of times, I've talked to people who making less or more around that time, around that money, and they are thinking that something is wrong with them. Like they're thinking they're having budgeting issues. They're thinking that, like, mind you, they're making good money, and they're like, I gotta get a second job on top of this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I gotta get some overtime, and even that's not enough.
Yeah.
So poverty looks. That's what poverty looks like as well. It's like you making good money,
Mm-hmm.
and you have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Or you don't even feel like it. You feel like you making great money, and you still drowning
Yeah. Add
in
kids to the
bills.
mix.
Oh
Yeah.
God,
Add
Jesus.
kids. Add, car
I know,
trouble.
yeah.
One little thing can throw you off. Somebody said you can't budget yourself out of poverty. It's just no way of doing it. You cannot budget yourself out of the hole that poverty creates for you. It's not your fault.
Yeah. Damn, that's deep when you think about it. Like, there's just that talk of poverty as well from all three different perspectives. It's insane.
Yeah.
Ken with the calculations though, but that that. Now
Aiken High math. Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, that was insane. I'm still catching up right now. 200, you carried a 4.
Well, now here's the
3.
thing. So
I got
you could do it this way. It's $20 an hour.
Add the tax.
No, 40 hours a week. That's $800. So we could do 52 weeks in a year. So you're at 41.6, right?
He's just showing off now. And I'm not.
No,
I'm
I'm
not
looking at him like-
right now. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. What the-
I'm like,
My bad.
what point are we making?
Whoa.
I'm like, yep.
Put him on the books.
Yep.
All right? Put him on the books.
No, it's just.
Not to take it off you, but real quick, I ask you a question. Could you ask a lot of the tough questions? I want to ask you one. Like, when are you going to run for something? Because you should be.
Ask him again.
There we go. When are you going to run for something? Because you should be.
I'm gonna tell you the beautiful thing about Jordan Johnson.
No, that's not what he asked. That's not
The
what he asked
beautiful
you.
thing about Jordan Johnson is that Jordan Johnson is a young man. You're 31 years old. He's been in the mix 10, 15 years.
10, right around 10 years.
So 21,
Maybe 12. I don't know.
has been a part of I'm hesitant to say the establishment, but has really kind of come up, just come up in.
As he says it.
is crazy.
No. But I'm talking about him in terms of just,
I got you.
being affiliated with the
There's going to be
Democrats.
some water.
In terms of just being affiliated with the Democrats. So, he's been a part of this for 10 years, and I think we've seen the fruits of that,
Thank you.
of your success. I'm just in a different place in terms of politics. I had the good fortune to attend a local county Democratic Party meeting a few weeks ago, and there was a pretty prominent, official there, and I was concerned about the future of the Democratic Party. She used the term winnables, basically how the party supports candidates whom they think can win. I mean, that's never been your issue. You're a winner. But that's not the case with all candidates. So I said, well, ma'am, because basically she alluded to the fact that South Carolina doesn't get as much money from the Democratic Party because they don't think those candidates can win. And I said, well, ma'am, the election was effectively decided here in 2020 when Joe Biden won South Carolina, and then the party, coalesced, with Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really, we're not numbers, we're people.
Right.
And I'm kind of, moving around Maine's question, but I'm just in this place of, number one, my political imagination is really gone beyond the two-party system. And I do think there's a populist movement that can be made behind, I think we've seen what's happened in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a movement that can be had. But just for me, man, my calling at the moment is, in media and journalism, is rallying people in this space. And also when I can, understanding that journalism is also about advocacy. So I'm not running for anything yet. Maybe, when I get a little older, I may run for something. But for right now, man, it's Jordan's world, man. And
No, man. No,
So-
no.
I want to clap it up for Kim Maker
Yeah,
for
for
giving
sure.
the best Jordan Johnson answer possible. On the
Oh,
podcast.
I take my clap back. Now I thought you were really giving us a shout out. I take
Once
my
you went
clap
into the story, I said, oh, he's good. I said, he's good.
This
He's
guy-
good.
this guy's good.
That's what that's what he be doing sometimes. You ask him a question, you're like, look, man. I was walking down the street one day, right? You know, it's
see how he
always,
do
a
us,
good
man.
answer though, but it's just, you know,
Why he do us
I
that
knew
way?
that, you know, he kind of moving around something. I said, okay, I got this. I got this.
He said on the last show that I was slick. You don't ever want to call an elected official slick.
See, I'm always careful with that, especially in Augusta, man, because, Black elected officials here, and you notice I'm not saying politicians. I'm being very deliberate. I would be remiss also if I didn't shout out Auntie, man. Francine Scott, you mentioned
Big
her
shout
earlier.
out.
Shout out to
But
Francine Scott.
That's
shout
my
out.
auntie, man. I think the world of her.
Yeah.
Man, she has, when she won the first time, I mean, people saw it as an upset, over Corey Johnson. But man, listen, just ran for re-election. She put hands and feet on a candidate that we shall not name. But when
She
we
won
talk,
every precinct.
A lot of
She won
unspoken
every
terms in this
precinct.
podcast,
but
right?
but the initiated are aware. But I'm saying that to say, man, look, really just thank a lot of you two, because you all are active in the community beyond emergencies. You all are perpetually seen. And I just think that's so important to helping people understand that politics is not just something that happens every 4 years or something that happens in November. Politics is something that happens to you every single day. When you have to dodge that pothole, that's politics. When you have to work 50 to 60 hours a week, that's politics. And I think you all really make that live for people. And it's important, the work that you all do. So I know there are times, man, you're like, man, this ain't it, man. I'm not really getting through to the people, but I want you to know that you guys are, man. So
Thank you,
keep
brother.
doing what you're doing, man. Continue to build on that, man. It's desperately needed. And you all are continuing in an important legacy here in Augusta, man.
Thank you.
So just let that be known, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Real quick, I did want to ask a few questions because I asked a couple people that, like, hey, you got any questions for Jordan Johnson? And I had one person send me like 20 questions. I ain't going to ask all 20 because some of them you're ready to answer. I think one that asked, like, can you share any moments or decisions that were particularly difficult for you during this process? I'm thinking about the post, about the water probably, right? I don't know if that was difficult or not, but I ain't going to ask that question because, I feel like
It wasn't
we
difficult.
talk about,
It
we talk about so many
annoyed
difficult
me.
things. You said
Yeah.
it annoyed me.
It just annoyed me.
But she did ask a question I was thinking, and Ken alluded to this earlier. She asked, has any long-term projects has been initiated to help Augusta not just recover, but improve its resilience for future disasters?
We're in the process of doing that now.
Okay.
I think that the storm showed us how unprepared we are for stuff like this. But again, we had no idea really knowing how things were going to turn.
Oh, nobody did.
Nobody did.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, the meteorologists tried to warn city officials. But because some city officials know everything, it just kind of blew over.
When you say meteorology, you mean like outside of Augusta? Or just like
Some in Augusta,
Jay
some outside of
Jeffries?
Augusta.
Jay Jeffries? I'm not being funny. I don't know. I'm asking.
It was some very well respected meteorologists.
Okay.
Tell
It
us,
is hard to trust the weatherman sometimes.
Well, yeah, but these were some really good ones.
Not for this stuff. I mean, for just the regular day. Your regular Monday, it's supposed to rain, don't rain. You lied, but something like that, it's hard though, because like I said, when the last time something like this happened here?
I don't remember the last hurricane.
How
Probably
can-
early 2000s or something.
I think our brother is alluding to an ounce of prevention,
Yeah,
resulting in a pound of a cure.
yeah.
And
Say that again.
an
I
ounce
like
of
that.
an ounce of prevention, is a
Yeah,
provides
that's
a
what we're in
pound
the
of cure.
middle
I
of
like
now.
that.
Like
I like
looking at
that.
the water filtration system, looking at how to build that thing up so much so that debris won't tear
Sure.
it down. Looking at how we can, just improve our roadways. Quite frankly, speaking of improving roadways, Wrightsboro Road is getting repaved. The contract has been approved
Okay.
That's
what's
big.
up.
and funded. So all these posts I keep sending about Wrightsboro Road
For the last few years, right?
is getting fixed. It's getting fixed. So things like that, improving our drainage systems, like real infrastructure renewal is something that we're working on to make sure that folks aren't flooding out during storms like this. All of those things at the forefront. You know what I mean? And I think one of the issues is that Augusta has such a low tax base to where it's hard to generate those dollars to those big ticket items without raising taxes. I'm not a big fan of raising taxes. But one day we're going to have to pay into the pot, right? But absolutely, those are initiatives that we're looking at right now, just trying to make sure that our city is resilient versus reactive.
And I hate to do this, but I have to ask this question just because it's on a tangent right now. You said something. Like, how hard is it to answer questions sometimes, or like to say things that you feel right now, knowing that like it's a very strong possibility in 2-3 years somebody could take what you said and be like, "Hey, you said this, but then you did this."
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't let it bother me, man. If you ask me a question, I'm gonna do everything I can to tell you the honest truth. Like, I'm not gonna beat around the bush with it. For instance,
Oh, there we go.
the whole grocery
Gotta
store,
love Jordan, man.
the whole grocery store thing, right? I'm just giving you an example. I said that a grocery store was going to be up by the time I ran for re-election because that's what I was told.
Yeah.
But by the time I ran for re-election, we had the contract signed and the place identified. And somebody said, "You said the grocery store was going to be up." Well, you're right, I did, and I should not have said it that way. So, I mean, there are just certain things you're going to have
Makes
to play
sense.
damage control, but
No, 100%.
I feel like anything that I say, man, either whether it's good or bad or in the middle, I can stand on it because it's coming from a place that's pure and that's based off of some sense of accuracy, whether I'm doing it myself or I'm getting reports back from higher ups or whatever. But I just try to stand on it.
He asked this question earlier. I'm going to ask it again. I think she said, how did this experience shape your vision for the future of Augusta in your role as commissioner? And in addition to what he said, in future roles that you may or may not have or run for.
Y'all fishing. You're fishing big time.
Bro, we just doing our job, bro.
I see.
You know, just like you doing your job. You know, we see, you see and we see.
Like y'all said, like I told y'all at the beginning, y'all two are the standard for what y'all do. Y'all are the standard.
And the best question is the innocent ones, just in case, you know.
Y'all are the standard. Let me just go ahead and address this. I have not had the luxury, okay, of thinking about running for anything post Augusta Commission. And I will tell you why. That's not to say that I don't have aspirations, but I have not had the luxury to really put that kind of thought process into it. Because the work that I'm doing right now as a commissioner is 24/7, 7 days a week, right? Somewhat of an exaggeration, but you get where I'm coming from.
No, I understand.
On top of that, I'm managing a nonprofit organization. I've been the director since 2021. That's time consuming. I'm the chairman of our Democratic Party. Very much time consuming and lots of responsibility. I think that the work that we do is self-sustaining. It's work that you can do now, is work that we can do tomorrow. There's always going to be a need to fill, right? So this whole idea that, you know, we're working and doing good and it's because I want to run for a different seat, or I want to go higher, or run for mayor, run for this, run for that. I'm flattered that people would think that I could do that and that I would serve well in those positions. But I like to stay focused on what I'm doing now, because I feel like if I start thinking about tomorrow, what I do now is going to be for tomorrow. And then today loses its authenticity. It loses its sincerity. Like I don't want to become that politician.
Gotcha.
That everything I do right now is because I'm running for mayor. Everything I do now is because I'm running for governor. That's not who I want to be. I want to do what I'm doing now because somebody literally called and said they needed it done. And I think that also goes back into shaping, you know, the whole question about the hurricane. How did it shape me? People don't care about your title or, you know, what position you're in. When the lights are off, they just want the lights on. So, I mean, I think I saw a lot of that, and it just really, number one, helped me to the fact that people still need help. And a lot of the lack of responses turned me off from politics to a degree as well. So, no, I'm not, you know, thinking 24/7 about running for mayor or running for anything else. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm the best commissioner that I can possibly be. And if for some reason I decide to run, or if something happens to just say, you know what, Jordan, you need to do it, I'm going to come sit in this chair, I'm going to tell you. But for now, man, I'm just being the best commissioner I can be. And I fall short.
That's great, man. We were heckling you a little bit about that.
That's why I just went on and told you. Like, yeah, I saw the post, I saw the comments,
Right.
you know, and flattered by it. But, you know, that's not a decision that you make just off of a couple Facebook posts.
Absolutely. You mentioned the Democratic Party and, of course, you know, your role not just in Augusta, but just throughout the state of Georgia. Of course, Kamala's team and the Democratic Party, Jamie, my goodness, I can't believe I'm forgetting his
Yep.
Jamie Harrison, stopped at the brunch house of Augusta. Shout out to brunch house. To see how everything shook out, with Kamala versus Trump. Just I want to say, where does that leave you? Of course, it's much bigger than just you as an individual, but just kind of take me on, just where your thoughts are in terms of where the party is, not just because everybody thinks about it in terms of just the orange man, but what are the ramifications of that in Georgia, in Augusta?
Not the head drop. He tried to. He tried to do it. He's stretching his leg.
There's no secret that I feel very strongly about Donald Trump. My opinion of him has not changed since 2020, since 2016. It just hasn't. I have a hard time, making light of someone who said that they can stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and never lose a vote. I have a hard time making light of somebody who, calls people SOBs, and who, when he became the president in 2017, right, banned Muslims and banned people from this country because of their background. And, I have a hard time just making light of somebody who has been on trial for committing 34 counts of, crimes, right? Election interference, hush money, paying porn stars. And no man is without fault, right? Yes. But I can't trade in that saying for somebody who clearly lacks integrity, who clearly lacks character, and who clearly lacks, just the wherewithal mentally to lead a country like the United States of America. What I will say is that Kamala Harris, with all of the issues that we had with this 2024 presidential cycle, Joe Biden's mental clarity being questioned, Kamala Harris being crowned the nominee. I was on the committee that made her the nominee, right? Served on it. It was an open process. Saw it all. I still think that she was probably one of the best presidential candidates we've had in a very long time. She had 100 days to run a campaign. He's been campaigning every day for the past 30 years. You can't compete with that.
Right.
And I also think that, when you start trying to indict people, you make them martyrs. He's on trial the same time Young Thug is on trial. Like, he's showing up the Rice Road in Atlanta the same time Thug showing up. So that has implications. He's on all these podcasts. And so what am I trying to say, man? I don't know where we're going, but I do know that what this election showed us was that people have their mind made up about the direction that they want to go. And whether they voted their purse or they voted their heart, I don't know. But what I will say is that now, regardless of who's in the White House, we better start paying attention, and we better start waking up, and we better start showing up, because I'm seeing how the same things that they're doing on the national level, they're trying to do on the local level. Our government is getting ready to go under a change to fit one person, to fit one purpose. The same way Congress and the Senate and the presidency is answering to one person, local government is following that same suit. And we just better wake up, because if we don't, everything that we've ever fought for is going to be gone. We laughed around with Project 2025. That's real. How do you know it's real? Because the people that he's appointing to his cabinet were authors of the document. His vice president wrote the foreword to the document. And he got on TV and told us, well, I know nothing about it. You know nothing about the plan, but you know everything about the people who wrote it. Come on, don't lie to me. You're seeing the same thing here on the local level. The same exact thing on the local level. So if we want to protect healthcare, if we want to protect education, if we want to protect your right to choose, if we want to protect your everyday civil liberties, if you don't want to be walking in the back door of a restaurant, you better show up and take this thing serious. And I don't say things I don't mean. I think that the next 4 years are going to be very tough. They're going to be hard. They're going to be tough. I think that this election has set us back a few decades. People say, well, black people are resilient. We've been through worse. Yeah, but that didn't make it okay. And that's not just to say that we need to go home and, pray to a picture of Jesus in our closet. I'm going to be praying, but but I'm also be out here working. So what does it say for Democrats? We better align ourselves with the working class. We better align ourselves with people who are out here living every single day, not telling them what they need to be doing or telling them what they need to be saying, but listening and then aligning our values and principles with theirs. But ultimately, we better align ourselves with what we want the future to be. And we need to start working towards it. We got to organize.
Right.
Because if we don't, it's going to take another 20 years for us to get somewhere, wherever that somewhere is.
I'm glad you asked, that you said that part at the end because, I look at Cori Bush, I look at Jamal Bowman, I look at AOC, who was just boxed out, and you alluded to some of that. The party needs to change. Mm-hmm. The party has to look less like the Republicans. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's a huge concern of mine.
If I could say this,
sure.
We don't need to be afraid to speak to our values. I mean, as a county commissioner, they say that I focus too much on the national, or I'm advocating for too many of those national or statewide issues. Well, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I work for a minimum wage increase in Richmond County? Why wouldn't I work for, programs to help folks have affordable housing? Why wouldn't we work for those things? Why wouldn't we? I think that we need to start embracing our values and embracing the fact that regardless if you are middle class in Walton Farms or you are poor class wherever, there's middle ground. We all need something. We all want something. We want to make money. We want to take more money home than what the government takes from us. We want to live comfortably. We don't want the government involved in our business, right? But how do we get to that point? We can't be afraid to be that person. We can't be afraid to embrace that. And I think the Democrats, and I'm the chair of the local party. I think that we just have a crisis of identity right now. Who are we talking to? Why are we talking to them? And what do we want to get out of it? During this whole presidential cycle, we didn't tap into the rural communities like we should have. We stayed in Atlanta. And guess what that got us? Trump. I will say Kamala deepened the blue, all right? She got more votes this time around. But, talking about here in Georgia.
I understand what you're saying.
But still, who are we? What do we want to align ourselves with? Where are we trying to go? What does that look like? And I don't think we're going to get that by just focusing on Donald Trump every day because it's bigger than Donald Trump. I think we made a mistake when we started paying him attention when he came down that escalator. You keep focusing on him, you give him attention. You give him attention, people are going to pay him attention. And the price is much greater than what we can afford. So stop talking about Trump, start talking about people.
Absolutely, and the issues.
I did have a question about the election, on a presidential standpoint. What was your thoughts? Because I had different conversations about why maybe she didn't win or whatever. You made a good point about the 100 days. I did think she had a very short amount of time. I don't know if it was more so selfishness, just a bad call to have him, I guess, stop, or make the decision. Okay, I'm not going to run again. So sure, I don't know. But what would you think about that? Should he have done it sooner to give her more time to run, or was that an adequate enough amount of time for her to actually get anything going?
The tough thing about that is that how do you tell a president who has been the most accomplished since FDR and LBJ that he needs to not run for re-election? How do you tell the president who created more jobs in the past 20 years than any other president that he needs to go home? How do you tell the president who just worked with Congress to cap the cost of insulin for seniors to $35 a month versus the thousands of dollars they were paying before that he needs to go home? How do you tell the president who has been the most green president in terms of the environment that he needs to walk away? What basis? The fact that he walks slow and that he's stuttering and can't walk up a flight of stairs? My granddaddy probably can't walk up a flight of stairs either.
I was only going to say some of it is I would look at it as perception as well.
Yeah,
you mentioned
sure.
earlier, you was like, who are we talking to? Who is our identity? Who is our identity and stuff like that? Like, some of these people that we look at as trying to gain this identity, that maybe our identity as a Democratic Party, that's what they look at, though. They're not looking at the things you're saying. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be 100 in a room, right?
Yeah.
I'm not the brightest in this room, okay? With the butler, right? But
cut it out.
I'm thinking like some of the stuff you said, I didn't know that. I'm thinking about the fact that he's saying a lot. I don't know if he hearing what he's saying. He don't like he know what he's talking about when he up there. He's saying some of the wrong verbiage. So I'm looking at the little things, and those are eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
So the thing that you're saying, it may come across your desk. Yeah. It ain't come across mine, so I know it ain't come across that person that turned 19 in his first time voting.
Right, which is why I said the Democratic Party has a crisis of identity.
So that's why I would say, like, when you say, how do you tell the president need to? That's kind of how I would tell it. Like, hey, look, we might not win if you don't, fall back a little bit. I know it sounds crazy.
But we still lost. And we still lost to somebody who was speaking well, who looked good.
But in a short amount of time, so we're praising her for what she did in that small amount of time.
Yeah.
What if she had a whole year?
Yeah. I think the issue just really comes in like what we're both saying, man. It's like people are the Democratic Party we do very well with college educated, Ivy League folks, suburban voters to a degree. But when it comes down to everyday voters, we haven't really connected since I would think like the 90s.
Just question out, because y'all know the answer to this. I know if he stepped down or something like that, and she steps up, that's how it works, right? Yeah. So what if maybe 8 to 10 months prior we do that, and she gets those last 8 months and some of the accolades we giving him? Because I'm not saying he did or didn't do it. I don't know. I didn't really watch. I'm not gonna lie. Mm-hmm. I be working, right? Hey, but
I feel you.
Maybe that under her belt now. So maybe she does gain some more traction, because you could say, oh, she did this, and under her she did this. Now she's green, and
that was a push, because he originally, I believe he said he was only going to be a transitional president, that he was going to serve one term and not run for re-election.
Right.
But I also think that there was some concern whether or not Vice President Harris could actually do it. And I knew that she could do it. I mean, she's been one of the most progressive.
I did question whether she could. I'm not gonna lie.
A lot of people did.
I did question that. Yeah.
A lot of people did.
Without reason, a lot of times, but I did question it though.
Without reason.
I'm not gonna
it's
lie
because
to
she's
you.
black, ain't it? No, I'm messing with you, man.
Nah, because she was. Now I'm playing.
Wow.
Just playing.
Let me drink some water on that. Let me drink some. But again, that went into it. People ask those questions.
You're right.
Which is why I really pray one day, right, that we can get outside of the identity politics. Is she black? Is she not? Does she have an accent? Does she not? Does the HBCU grad matters? Does it not? And we really focus on the substance, because.
But a small, just a small smidgen. I mean, more than small is on them as well, because they go into the platforms wearing it as well.
Oh, for sure.
Like Hillary didn't have to do the hot sauce thing, it's
I agree.
People have to do,
because she don't carry hot sauce in her bag.
Come on now, let's be for real. She said 2-pack. It just. I mean, not Hillary. This is Kamala. So it's just like certain things. I'm like, hey, I don't know. That's not what somebody say in my neighborhood.
Yeah, you're clearly pandering.
So that's all. Yeah. But I, looking back at it now, I do be like, man, we kind of in trouble.
I think that we just lost the economy question, the economy conversation. Inflation is inflation.
Right.
COVID 100% caused inflation.
Yeah.
After COVID, you had all these CEOs of these big companies jack their prices up to get more money, just like what we were talking about with the hurricane. But she was out here talking about going after them. She was out here talking about building homes. She was out here talking about providing, child credits. But we just lost the economy conversation. And Trump, who said he had concepts of a plan and talking about imposing tariffs, won based off of what? So it's just one of those things to where you take your loss and go figure it out and come back.
I think messaging is extremely important. I know you spoke to Joe Biden said he was going to be a one-term president. If you're going to be a one-term president, in year 2 and year 3, there has to be a transition. And I know the concerns about the transition is, you're going from a white man to a black woman, and that's the elephant in the room, no pun intended. But there has to, that transition, had to be made. And if you were not willing to make that particular transition, then the primary has to be open in a sense, or presented in a sense where it doesn't seem like, we've already made a conclusion of the direction in which we're going to go into. Mm-hmm. But I do want to speak to some of what you're talking about, which is the actual messaging. I was in Charlotte for Election Day. And so I see signs that say, Trump low taxes, Kamala high taxes. And that's a sign that whether it's true or whether it's false, is something that, the lowest common denominator can identify with. Mm-hmm. And a person can look at that sign, and if they are undecided or misinformed or however you want to shake it, the folks in the margins are going to look at that sign and say, okay, well, I'm voting Trump.
Yep.
And that's what the Democratic Party, I don't have an issue with identity politics because this is America. Like, America's identity politics are largely white supremacy. And it's always been that way. That's why, when we overcame chattel slavery and went to Reconstruction, America corrected itself, Jim Crow. Civil rights movement, that was 60 years ago. What is America doing now? And so when you have folks who, we don't like DEI, we want to ban the books. So what are you saying? What you're saying is that you don't want to see a black person in that position. So you have a form of identity politics, it's just anti-black.
And then not only do we not want to see him in that position, but you have your president come out and say that we're going to be paying essentially reparations to people who've been impacted by DEI. Right. So how do you compete with that type of rhetoric fueling those underlying, just fueling the fabric of what we know this country to be?
The short-term answer is we have to evolve our political imagination.
Absolutely.
and that has to go beyond, in some ways, Democrat and Republican. You strike me as a progressive. And so when you talk about progressive, you start talking about unpopular terms like communism and socialism, and that scares people. But communism is basically, we care more about people than community. You're a man of the people. Do we want a politics that serves the people? Maybe you don't want to call it the C word, but that's basically what we're getting at. When we have all of these grand ideas and, remembrances of Dr. King and Ella Baker and Malcolm X and the Black Panthers. These folks were socialists, man. They were definitely anti-capitalist.
Yeah.
This is a political history that people have to understand. It will start to fuel people's imagination. And Andrew Gillum said something on the Native Land podcast the other day. He said that imagination is a privilege. And I respectfully push back on that. I think imagination is abundant when people have courage.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And
I like that.
Yeah. I think we've seen that throughout our history, throughout the history of Africans in America, is that, hey, man, if we got an idea, we know this ain't it for us. Slavery ain't it for us. So how are we going to get out of this? We know that Jim Crow is not it for us. What are we going to do to get out of this? And I think the same thing will happen now, but we have to acknowledge the stakes for what they are. And the stakes are high.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do want to, I know we probably got like maybe 15, 20 minutes on that. I wanted to kind of bring it to more local. We spoke, well, let me tell you about Jordan, right? So I'm at, this is a good thing. I'm going to a function. I can't say what it is right now. I'm going to a function. I walk downtown, I get out the car. First of all I see, Jordan Johnson walking down the street. So I give you 5 yesterday, we talk, whatever. So I go inside the meeting and they like, how do you know that guy? Because everybody know who you were because they big wigs or whatever. I said, oh, it's just a friend, I just know him. Oh, yeah, he does this. So they spoke highly of you. All white guys, by the way. But they spoke highly of you. I don't know what that meant, but I feel like it meant something, right? But it was like, not today, right? So anyway, I said to say,
different interview.
We spoke outside, definitely. We spoke outside about some of the things we're going to talk about briefly. And I don't know if you wanted to touch on it, but I know like y'all, last time we spoke about a lot of things and you were running, but it was something that y'all needed to vote on with of course the N-word, the voting and all that stuff. How has that decision affected anything dealing with the commissioners lately? Like, is it still a big effect? Is it something that just, because a lot of people that don't watch the politics, it's just something that was spoken about, got approved or whatever, and then we don't hear nothing about it from no more. So like, how has that shaped or hurted, helped? What do you think about it? Like Jordan starts smiling. It's the Jordan smirk.
Jordan shrug.
Yeah, man. I can't get the question now because ask me. Let's go.
Going back to that. Okay, so what you're referring to is the mayor's vote.
Right.
So city was consolidated in 96. 5 commissioners on one side of town, 5 on the other. A mayor who just kind of served in the ceremonial role. I won't really say ceremonial because the mayor does have authority. But the mayor's job is to only vote in the sense of a tie break when the commission can't reach a consensus of 6 votes. And now he has a vote on every item. It hasn't helped us I'm just saying, you smiling. It has not helped us.
I'm coughing. I'm sorry. It's no,
okay.
it's weather. It's,
I'm gonna shoot straight. It has not helped us. If the commission was split between Democrats and Republicans, I could say that he does not vote with the Democrats. But Augusta is split black and white. So go figure.
take that for.
And I'm not speaking something I hadn't said already, so I don't really.
Yeah, you're not.
The way that he was able to go and get that vote is he went around the black commissioners, and he worked with the more conservative commissioners on the commission and the Republicans in the legislature up in Atlanta, the House and the Senate, around the Democrats that represent Augusta to get it done anyway. Come January, the majority on the commission is going to completely shift. And I think that you're going to see a lot of bad politics play out. You're going to see a lot of press conferences. You're going to see a lot of Facebook posts. There's going to be a lot of crazy stuff happening because what essentially happens now is that one person will have unchecked power as long as those commissioners that he's controlling stays with them. And it's like Donald Trump and Mike Johnson and the rest of Congress. Like I said, what you're seeing happen on the national scene is happening down here on the local. But the only difference is here now is, can you imagine if Donald Trump had a vote in Congress? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
so no, it has not helped us at all. I can tell you instances to where those votes, that one vote has kept us from getting certain things done. But I don't want to harp on him because I don't want to be seen as just the person who find fault in everything they do, because that's not me. I'm sleeping good at night now. But what I will say is the politics is getting ugly, it's getting nasty, and quite frankly, is getting more, I hate to say self-serving, but it is what it is. It's getting more self-serving.
Can either one of y'all can answer? Let me ask one question. I really don't be knowing. I know it's gonna sound. I know when I say that, it sound like I know I don't. But I know Ben Hassan had put something out like a while back and asked me to watch, and I did. I didn't know what to say because he's used a lot of big words. I was like, I don't know what this mean, Ben. And it was something about another mayor, Copenhagen. Okay, he apparently put something out. I don't know what that was. Was that out of you? Like, I'm trying to figure out what happened. Like, what was the reason for that, and what was his stance on that? Because I couldn't understand it through what Ben was saying because he was explaining something else, but he reading off something that mayor put out.
So, all in a nutshell, the city government has always been run by the good old boys. All right, if we want to go there, let's go there. I only got 4 years. I got my 4 years. You see, I've been holding back, Ken.
Hey, man.
I've got my.
I love the end of podcast. I promise you. That's that. You get the best.
The city been run by good old boys, and as time went on, we started to elect people who didn't subscribe to that good old boy system. So when the good old boys come to the commissioners and say, "Hey, Commissioner, such and such, here's $500. I need you to vote for such and such." Now that commissioner's not taking that money, and good old boy Joe Schmo don't get his development, or he doesn't get his big deal, or he doesn't cash in on the backs of the city and on the backs of the little man. And this move reverts us back to that. And so they were saying, well, you can't get anything done on the commission because the commissioners can't agree to anything. We always hear that. The commission don't do nothing but fuss and argue. What the hell do you think we're fussing and arguing about? Not what color the sky is. The fuss and the fight is a tug of war between integrity and the opposite of that. It's corruption and the opposite of that. Case in point, we're meeting tomorrow. We had our last commission meeting 2 weeks ago. We're having a special call meeting tomorrow evening at 4:30. Now, when has the commission ever met at 4:30? Meeting tomorrow at 4:30 because our trash contract expires on the 31st of December. And we failed to vote on a new contract before our last meeting. Well, Jordan, why did y'all not vote on the contract? Well, we put out a request for qualifications, a request for proposal, which basically says Augusta needs our trash zones to be equal because right now they're not. You're paying a different fee than what I'm paying. West Augusta is paying different than South Augusta. East Augusta paying different than West Augusta. We're going to put everybody on the same level. And this is what we want. If you can do it, shoot us a proposal. The company that won the proposal went up against a company where a majority of the commissioners that I just mentioned are buddies, right? So the buddies didn't get the contract. The buddies didn't win the proposal. The other people did. And so now we're having to go back to the drawing board because the mayor and the other commissioners voted against going with the people who won the bid, who won the contract, because they want their buddies to get it. Now, what does that mean? It means that if we don't pass the proposal tomorrow, you're not getting your trash picked up until the first of the year. If we get a proposal passed in the first of the year. To make things even more better, instead of going with one company or the other, the department director brought us both companies and said, you get one area, you get the other. We're going to split the money up. Your buddies get to eat, and the people that won get to eat. And the mayor and the rest of them said, nope, we want our buddies to have all of it. And so you're not getting your trash picked up if the commission doesn't vote to extend that contract. So where am I going with all of this? You're going to start seeing more good old boy stuff play out. They said that the commission fuss and the commission argues. That's what we've been fighting against. We've been fighting against things that we know are just not right, that's not true, that would cost the city in the long run. And for a former mayor to come out here and say that we need change because the commission is divided and this, that, and the other, and he knows why the commission is divided, he's playing into that division, it is very disingenuous. And I think a lot of the reason why I don't get pat on the back by some of those folks is because I'm not afraid to just come out and say, you're doing wrong, the people are not stupid, and you're going to have to be held accountable to that one day.
There's another reason.
I understand.
Another reason. Definitely
I
another
get
reason.
it.
I'll speak to it. You don't have to speak to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, put me on game. I really don't know.
George Johnson's 31 years old.
He moved him back.
He's 31 years old.
For another year.
The conflict that you're dealing with as a politician. Actually, let me start over. By virtue of the mayor's vote and by virtue of just the sheer commissioner count, Jordan Johnson is a political underdog. But that's not what's pumping inside of you. You're like, I don't care how many votes I got. I'm going to speak truth to power. So when I see a vote go a certain way, I'm going to speak for the people. I'm going to speak against the establishment. And that puts you in line with your political predecessors. Consolidation is like this. You spoke about 5 and 5. I'll say what the 5 represents. It's 5 black and it's 5 white. And the reason why it exists like that is because, among other things, of a certain race riot that happened in 1970. So you have this racial animus, you have this, and people are afraid to call when there's racial conflicts, for some reason people are afraid to say that. But when you have a race riot in a city, not 60 years ago, some of those feelings are still going to exist among people who are, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. Some of these folks who, one of them is your colleague who can speak to the day that the militarized vehicles came down Laney Walker Boulevard. And so this is something that's generational, that has been passed down, these fights, these conflicts between mayors and all of these different types of things. So you're in that space right now. So when we talk about the good old boy system in politics as usual, it is fundamentally an issue of a racial power balance or imbalance, because it started out as an imbalance and the establishment wants it to get back to being an imbalance. What makes it so particularly interesting in this moment is that the majority of the people in Augusta are black, are Africans in America. And even now you're experiencing, and you know this because of the tax base, you have some folks who are leaving Richmond County to go to nearby counties, white flight, all of these different types of things. So that majority is continually growing. But the people in power and the establishment is not moving in that same direction. So there are all these different types of conflicts and pushing and pulling that you have. So I just find it interesting to see you here in this moment, not just you, Jordan Johnson, who I think many people will say you're like a spokesperson, like I said, for this progressive just ideals on the commission, but you're in a line of your predecessors, of people who were before you, man. And it just underscores the importance of you not being afraid to speak the truth of power in this moment. Maine's talking about some of this, and Maine's just is like a lot of people in Augusta just trying to figure out like how do I fit in this? Like, how do I figure out what's going on? And it's fundamentally simple. You have to involve yourself in the process. You have to go to commission meetings. You have to continually ask those tough questions. You have to go to school board meetings. And it matters beyond a pothole. It matters beyond just even the 40 to 50 to 60 hours that you work every week. It's about your kids that you're raising here, that you want a better life for. It's about your community, your neighbors, your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandfather. It's about all of these folks. And I'm not being dramatic when I say this. When we're not aware of what's going on in these spaces, in the places that you work. Like, in a lot of ways, you're pushing back against the gains that these gentlemen fought for 30, 40, 50 years ago. You're fighting against the gains of people who died during the riots. Some people we don't know about. People who are still afraid to speak truth to power because of what they saw happen to a Malcolm X or a Dr. King. So I'm not afraid to speak to it. People say to me, man, Ken, I don't know if you should have said that, but I don't know any other way to be. And I'm pretty sure that's where you are in this as well. Mm-hmm. But make no mistake about it, man. You're in the space that you're supposed to be, but you're representative of a larger legacy, a larger Black political legacy in Augusta that we should not trivialize and that more people should try to take the time to really learn about.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. I have this. I appreciate you, man. I think ultimately for me, it's just about sleeping at night. I want to make it in, right? And we're not perfect, but when you see some of the things that goes on down there, it really just causes you to really evaluate how do you address certain things. But again, I love this city, man. I love this community, and I appreciate you.
You part of a bigger dream, man. It's a recurring nightmare when we talk about, political odds. I worked for the Metro Courier when Mttm became the 6th white commissioner. And people say, well, man, why are you saying black and white? Because that's what it was.
That's
because
what the city is built on.
When they had 6 white commissioners, they privatized everything. Mm-hmm. And so what does it mean when you privatize? It means that you take the people out of it and you give what should be in the people's interest and you make it about corporate interests. Mm-hmm. And we see that on a nationwide scale. When you do that, the people lose. And so that's what we're fighting, is that we can talk about black and white, we can talk about Democrat and Republican, but fundamentally we're talking, and we can talk about progressive versus conservative, but fundamentally what we're talking about is who do you want to have the control? Do you want the people to have control, or do you want money to control everything?
And that's where we are right now. Even with the charter being reviewed,
sure.
We're in the middle of this conversation about our city charter being reviewed. What are we reviewing? We're not reviewing the language about procurement. We're reviewing the language about who holds the power. They're talking about even lowering the number of commissioners down to like 5. So what does that mean for the inner city? What does that mean for South Augusta, where majority of the commissioners represent? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They're talking about making the city administrator a city manager and having that person answer directly to the mayor and have all the department heads answer up, which means the mayor would be all power. The commission would be rendered, useless. Who's the majority of the commission? So I think ultimately what we're seeing is, like you said, folks want to go back, and we have really got to stand up and be, like you said, involved in this process. Because if we don't, everything that we worked hard for is gone. And I don't care how much yelling and fussing I do come January. What I say will not matter, because they have the 6 votes to do whatever they want to do in this government. So, and when I say they, I don't mean just all white people. So and that presents a whole nother conversation.
Absolutely.
So, hey, I'm here to serve, but I just think that we are in such a prime position to stand as a community, more now than we have ever been before. Because not only do we have a national reason why, we have a local reason why. So, but brother, I appreciate you.
Likewise.
Definitely. I appreciate both of y'all. First of all, appreciate you, Kim Macon, for bringing the calculator with you. You know what I'm saying? But definitely the experience and just the big words that I know I never can say. I appreciate Jordan Johnson, you know, for being Jordan Johnson in all ways. And I do like I learn from when I talk to you as well all the time. You know, I learn when I talk to you, but I think most of all what I see is just the genuine, you know, how genuine you are. And we joke a lot about the answers you give, but I knew a lot of the times you actually have to like make sure you answer the right way. Not that you're gonna say the wrong thing, but you have to think before you speak. You can't. It's not like most of us. You could just say whatever, and it's like it's whatever.
Yeah.
Anything you say can haunt you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just the wrong one word is a rap.
Yeah.
So I understand it, and so we joke a lot about it. But I play with a lot of people that's in the politic world because I do feel like, you know, you have to answer certain ways. You have to have a certain way where you can to give yourself time to answer. And if that's a story, well, I do it with my kids all the time.
Yeah.
To say, no, I'm not giving you $10. It's a story about that, you know? So I definitely want to applaud you for doing that, but also just applaud you for all the efforts you did do during the hurricane and being in the front line. I know it was a team effort, but a lot of times, like I said, people do see Jordan as well. And you make yourself visible and approachable, you know?
I appreciate you.
So I definitely want to shout you out for that.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Likewise.
Definitely, man. This was dope. I appreciated it a lot. I like when it always towards the end when Jordan get like, you know, we get a little spicy, like, you know, let's get spicy, you know. And I feel like that's dope because what happens is how I like to do it is like for you to get that, you gotta get through everything first. So get through what's important first.
Yeah.
And then we get to the rest of the stuff. Even my clips, I don't put my clips out like that. Like I put them in order, so you won't see no clips from the end of this until like next week. It's always the meat and potatoes first.
Yeah.
And then we go from there. But this is good stuff. You're getting good at this, man. This is insane. This is another home run.
Tell you, both of y'all are like I told you, y'all both
Yeah,
are
that
the
felt
standards,
good.
man.
It definitely felt good. It's that we never done this before.
No?
Yeah.
Never.
Listen, y'all know what you're doing.
Yeah. The secret's in the water bottle though with Jordan.
Definitely.
Yeah, the bottom
Definitely.
Yeah, the top was I don't know, but the bottom was definitely alcoholic.
Definitely Bug secret stuff.
Hey, I don't confirm nor deny.
Man, but tell people where they can find you at. Tell them that you love More Than Masters podcast, all that stuff, you know. So give you a little outro, you know.
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook, Jordan Johnson. Instagram, One Jordan Johnson. Spell one out, ONE. You can call me 706-564-9356. But let's connect. Let's get involved. Let's change the community, and let's really build a legacy for generations that's going to come after us. And I always tell people, man, if y'all sign up to do it, I'm going to be right there in the middle with you to help you through it. So let's get done. Let's do it.
Shout out to you, man. Clap for Jordan Johnson.
Thank you, my
know what I'm
friend.
saying?
Appreciate you.
Good job,
Thank you.
man. You know what I'm saying? All right, man. More Than Masters podcast. We out. Shout out to Kim Macon for coming through. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks for having me.
Man.
Always, man. All right, we out.
Drink this
That was good.
alcoholic water.